has the Tory government said fuck you to the nurses, they've actually also said fuck you to police officers, because what's interesting is that austerity in the UK has actually meant austerity across the board, unlike here where it just means savage cuts on anything that benefits the broad general public. But of course, we want to build up a domestic security apparatus. And Jeremy Corbyn has brilliantly, and we can use this guy first. He has brilliantly and astutely connected the terrorism threat with the austerity policy of the Tory government. This is a very important way, because let's be real here. One of the essential things to combat terrorism and disrupt networks, especially in the IS age, this is the IS strategy. This was a truck that rammed into a bunch of people hanging out on a bridge. And these are the types of attacks that, in their manifestos and their documents, they're focusing on. They're focusing on the daily, relentless destabilization of every facet of what could be a normal life. So in Al-Qaeda, there might be a massive, horrific, symbolic, and not, obviously not just symbolic, a act of mass murder that is supposed to have a global meaning and global register, taking down the World Trade Center. But conversely, if you're, not in New York City or a couple of other major metropolitan areas, you can say, okay, well, it's horrible, but it doesn't directly impact my life in the same way. The IS strategy is no matter where you are, what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be a bomb, and it doesn't have to be a major landmark. It could just be just acts of horrific, sustained, and grotesque violence and indiscriminate sort of sense of constant disruption no matter where you are. And it's a shift in strategy. So in that reality, frontline services, police officers, and the very, very actual painstaking and important work of the intelligence to disrupt these networks is paramount, because you're not going to bomb away a problem like that in Syria, particularly when most of these people who are doing this are homegrown terrorists. So the Tories' cut in police is a direct undermining of UK's national security, and austerity kills across the board. This is Peter Kirkham, a former investigating officer in London, saying that the police were in crisis. He said this over the weekend in response to the terror attacks on Sky News in the UK.
But more armed police officers on the streets than ever before, we're told?
No.
Armed police officers on the streets than ever before?
No, they're not. Basically, people that are alleging that are lying.
So the government are lying?
Yes.
The Defence Secretary's lying when he says that?
Yes, they funded bringing us back to the number of armed officers we had in 2010 by 2020. And they've got to address a number of issues in order to get there.
The Prime Minister was previously, of course, Home Secretary for 6 years. She's saying that we need to now change the way that we are approaching terrorism here in the United Kingdom. What sort of advice, what sort of support do you think she needs to offer the police service?
I heard her speech and she raised 4 things that needed to change. She missed the most obvious, urgent one, which is to deal with the cuts to ordinary policing. Yes, all those other things that she said, long-term impacts and all the rest of it, yes, they're all valid. But what needs to be done, and it needs to be done immediately, is stop and reverse the cuts to ordinary policing. They're needed in intelligence gathering from communities. They're needed in monitoring those 23,000 very low-level people that are, inverted commas, known to the police and security services in their community.
And just to clarify, you say that the government is lying about the number of armed police officers that are on the streets of the United Kingdom.
Yes, in 2010 we had 1,000 plus more. They've got a plan in place, and they've said they've funded, not totally, but they've part funded, bringing that up again by 2020. We are not there yet. We saw a brilliant response in London here last night. We saw it in Westminster a month or so ago. We saw it in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. If this had happened anywhere else, you would not be seeing that response. It is threadbare elsewhere in the country.
So there it is. That's his Tory austerity policy is a threat to national security. And by the way, for all Sebastian Gorka, neocon fantasists, Sam Harris acolytes, that's how someone who actually deals with security issues talks about and assesses how to deal with terrorism. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, And he clarified this statement somewhat later, but I love how he's jumping on this in a smart and opportunistic way and connecting his overall message about how the Tories are decimating and undermining the country through austerity, through their war on the public services with this security threat. And to be clear, before this quote, in this interview with Corbyn, not sure where the interview was, they're quoting, I guess it was The Guardian picked it up. It's fine. Steve Hilton, who was a former advisor to David Cameron, has said that Theresa May should resign over cuts in policing. Now, Hilton, there's not great blood between Cameron and May. Hilton might have his own interests, but this is the equivalent of a political strategist for Tories saying May should be gone. So Corbyn is being asked, do you agree she should resign over the policing cuts? And here's how he answered in this exchange.
Given her record on policing numbers, there have been calls for her resignation. Would you back those calls?
Indeed, I would, because there's been calls made by a lot of very responsible people on this who are very worried that she was at the Home Office for all this time, presided over these cuts in police numbers, and now is saying that we have a problem. Yes, we do have a problem. We shouldn't have cut the police numbers.
So to be clear, you would like to see her resign over this?
We've got an election on Thursday, and that's perhaps the best opportunity to deal with it.
Beautiful. That is the best opportunity to deal with everything. If you're in the UK, you need to get out and vote for the Labour Party. It's vital for protecting the UK, and it's vital for the global left. And yes, her previous position as Home Secretary, she presided over both a cut in policing, which undermined security, as well as massive incursions on civil liberties. A friend from the UK compared her to a British Rudy Giuliani. Get out there, vote, save what remains of the UK, and put an actual, for real, democratic socialist in charge. It's a very significant opportunity.
If Corbyn wins, some friends and I have already decided we're going to London later, maybe next spring or this winter.
Well, there you go. What more do you need to know? Lex coming if he wins.
Hey, Sam Seder here. Folks, you probably heard about the whole YouTube advertiser apocalypse. Well, we're suffering from it too. We need your help. If you want to keep this show alive, you want us to be able to still put out clips on a regular basis, head over to our Patreon page. Here's the link right here or down below there. And just give us a couple bucks a month and support this program. Really appreciate it.